Leslie Goldman would have been the first to admit he was no saint, but he may very well have been a prophet in the wilderness, certainly here in the desert of Southern California. When spiritual seekers of our generation found synagogue life devoid of juicy spirituality, when they flew to the Far East seeking the heights of consciousness, Leslie instinctively went to ground. His spiritual path dug deep into our tribal roots as farmers, our beginnings as an agrarian society with festivals built around harvests. The collection of your wisdom, what you know to be true, is your Torah, your singular teaching. Each person has a Torah, unique to that person, their innermost teaching. Some seem to know the Torahs very early in life, and they speak them and they sing them in a myriad of ways. Others spend their whole lives stammering, shaping, and rehearsing them. Some are long. Some are short. Some are intricate and poetic. Others are only a few words. And still others can only be spoken through gesture and example. But every soul has a Torah. And to hear another say Torah is a very precious gift. For each soul, by the time of his or her final hour, the Torah is complete. The teaching is done. Leslie Goldman, the son of a rabbi Cantor, wrote, sang, danced, planted, and tended his Torah in hearts and minds and souls and in the earth wherever he went, in communities, in conferences and conventions, in marketplaces, in cyberspace, and deep, deep into the earth itself. He planted his Torah seeds not only with his own hands, but with the hands and the toil and the awakening of the children, the teenagers, the adults, and the elders he inspired, cajoled, even railed at, sometimes, with urgency and impatience. What a wonderful spirit Leslie has. Just because it no longer inhabits a physical body, it surely continues to be felt by all who know and appreciate him. We often find that when someone leaves their body, they tend to give us more than when present. It's the laughter. It's the tears. It's the word, or how it was said. It's these things remembered deep within us. These are what make each of us a better person for having spent time with Leslie. We all have a way to clear the clutter of a relationship and get down to its true meaning for us. Now is the time that meaning will shine forth for each of us. Here is how Bill Finn articulates that meaning for himself. Leslie Goldman was, as Linda describes him, a great soul trapped in a broken body. Yesterday, his body finally broke completely, and he's now tending more ethereal gardens. Leslie taught me an important lesson, and it wasn't about ancient strands of wheat or the evilness of GMO. Like many people who saw a profound truth and sought to do great things, Leslie was annoying. He pushed his agenda in social and spiritual gatherings, even when its appropriateness was questionable. He was marginalized, and he was often belittled. Some people saw him as a twisted little man who rudely wouldn't shut up about his obsessions. In recent years, some groups adapted to Leslie and treated him with greater and greater respect. Leslie also adapted, and he learned to present himself more appropriately. Linda and I didn't like it when he was treated with disrespect. We sought to ensure his voice was heard when others tried to shut him up. We did this even though we disagreed with some of his ideas. Leslie appreciated our efforts to defend him, went out of his way to be nice to us. We were his guests at a gathering called A Human Be-In, a New Age event at a camp high up in the California mountains. When Linda and I arrived at that event, we were impressed by the number of people present. When one goes to primarily Jewish spiritual events, the number of participants tends to be small. The crowds at this camp, 1,000 plus, reminded us of the large non-Jewish spiritual world out there. And the second thing we noticed was that one name was on everyone's lips: Leslie Goldman's. Did you hear that Leslie was here? Is he going to speak tonight? Is it true that you know him? The excitement over Leslie's presence was palpable. One evening, he gave a talk to a large room that I think held about 500 people. Stomping their feet, cheering wildly, the adoring crowd poured adulation over Leslie. This was a wake-up call for me. To these people, Leslie was a great spiritual leader, not a strange small person who compulsively talked about heirloom plants. And this experience reminded me to try to look at people for who they truly are, not what I may think they are. Leslie Goldman was like the seeds he promoted. That is, some saw a dull little stone, while others saw the great life force within. It's appropriate that Leslie passed the week when we read the Torah portion about the spies returning from their mission to the land of Israel. The Hebrew word for spies does not appear in the portion. The word that describes the, quote, spies is actually closer to the word for tourist. Spies look for weaknesses in foreign lands. Tourists look for what is good and beautiful. This was the sin of the spies. They failed to see what was good. And so it was with Leslie. Some saw the broken vessel. Others saw the brilliant light. Rest in peace, my enchanted friend. May the seeds you planted in this life bear fruit for 100 million years. Bill. We are all blessed for such a wonderful man to be in our lives and in the life of our community, B'nai Horin, the children of freedom. May Leslie Goldman, Eliezer ben Rav Shlomo, now receive 10 times the blessings back to him that he bestowed on all of us and on all others during his lifetime. We remember him. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind, in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds, in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky, in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves, in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we remember them. And when we are weary, in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick of heart, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements based on theirs, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them. As we remember them. As we remember them.